I just put a couple of images in from Apollo 16. One's from a PDF file, and the other one is so-called from the LRO. And it just struck me. You'll see on EVA 1, you'll see it says flag to the left. In EVA 1, you'll see how far the flag is away from the LEM in Apollo 16. Now, take a look at the scale at the bottom of the one on the PDF. That's
But
more than a kilometer away. So, how are they doing that jump salute in Apollo 16 with the flag beside the LEM?
again, another problem for the continuity producers who didn't get it right.
But every time we look at one of these maps, they're always wrong. The scales are wrong. They don't match any of what we're seeing. So if they're claiming that that flag was 70 feet out, then why is it, according to this scale, a kilometer and a half out?
And
Yeah,
so, somebody created a PDF file to match the images that they're producing.
Seems that way.
Yeah. Because when I look at the PDF, I think this is early 2000. Like when I'm just going through stuff and looking at it and seeing things just jump out at you, most people would never catch on to that. Obviously, the people that put it up, the drawing for the PDF should be a match for what they claim is the LRO, because the LRO had to come first to map that area. And then how did they get all these extra little craters and name them all?
My question is, how could that LO get down low enough to photograph craters that are 1 foot in diameter? Because according to some of these articles out there, the LO only had a resolving capability of 3.3 feet. So where are they getting this from? It goes back to Apollo 17. How on earth could the LO get that low to take that entire area imaging craters that are 1 foot in diameter? To me, that makes no sense.
Yeah, but don't forget now, they were able to, with that thing, to pick out an 18-inch rock and know what the mineral contents in once it's opened up. And they
yeah,
put that in the cue cards.
which I think is a very good indication that they were faking it because they had to have the cue cards written in such a way that they would make sense. So they had to show them approaching a rock which they didn't know existed, containing part of the rock which they didn't know existed. Once you get into the detail of what they claim to have achieved, the story falls apart under its own ridiculous details.
Well, if all they had was the lunar orbiter, how could they know exactly where that was? How
Yeah,
could they put it in the cue cards? Because they had no idea that they were going to land there anyway.
Yeah, well,
uh,
take a look. You see, I put those two images side by side, and as you can see, that's going to be the height that the LO would have had to have been in order to take those 100-foot craters. Well, here,
Oh,
according to this, it says the South Massif on the moon near the Apollo 17 landing site, which is Taurus Littoral Valley, stands 2,300 meters or 7,550 feet. Well, if that's 7,550 feet, if he's taking the image from where he's standing, that massif would dwarf him. He would not see the top of it, not even close.
yeah. And then, of course, if you look in the document, where the hell's this crater that they said it was in? I'd never seen a document that said that they landed in a crater anywhere on any of the missions, and it's not in the photographs. Yet the PDF file says that they landed in a crater, the Lem crater.
there are so many anomalies between the documents that were written before the event occurred, whichever mission it was, and the reality of what they photographed on those locations. And we know that photographs can't be taken without damage in a vacuum. And if they're in a vacuum, how come there's no damage to the photographs? Did they fix all 5,771 of them? No, they didn't have to. They were never on the moon when they took the photographs. They were here on Earth. And as Simon Wheeler says, some big soundstage in a vacuum. Oh, come on. Don't be such an idiot. They've got a big enough one, the Sandusky Center, if they wanted to use it, but they don't. You don't need a vacuum.
Now, these pictures were taken outside.
Yeah, they were taken outside.
You can see Apollo 16, you can see the paint peeling off the top of the LEM because it's been sitting there. They're using the same one, not only to practice with, probably from 1968 on to about 72. This thing's
Yep.
just been sitting outside at Flagstaff, and the paint's starting to peel off of it. And once again, when you have somebody that's still alive from Apollo 16, you could ask them, because here's a picture right here. Because in the picture I sent you, of course, has the double rib on the front left fender. And it's the only shot of it. But we know when they were practicing that they had multiple pieces of equipment while they were practicing. They had more than one LEM. They had extra cameras, extra magazines, extra batteries, extra everything, and PLSSs. It's all documented in the Finney files. All of that is documented. That's what they used to practice with. But if they were on the moon, they only had one vehicle. So how can this vehicle be there and all the other shots only has one rib on that? And that's a hard thing. You can't replace that. It's not removable. You can't take it off of there. That's the fender.
I remember one guy saying something like this, and he said, what you're seeing is not the two ribs because you grab one of them and it folds up and down, and that's the fender that comes in and out.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's fine and dandy. Then why don't we see that on the wheel on the front right? But we see it on the front left. I understand. The fender on the front right is pulled down, but where's the handle for it?
They're
Yeah.
both pulled down. The fender folds up over the top. You see the little steel edge they put across the edge of it on both fenders? Do you see the steel tracking for it to slide up and down? It's not slid up. It goes over the top. It's still sitting. You see the edge on it?
The guy probably thought it slid under.
No, they go over. I have looked at that. It doesn't matter. That's a double rib. It's a completely different design because that's all one piece. Where it curves, that's all one piece. You take a look at it. You see the other fenders just with the little rib on it, right? That's got a big double piece on it.
I don't know. That's weird. That's probably what he thought. It went underneath, right?
No.
Oh, I see. So you grab the handle there and you pull it down and it goes over top of it.
Yeah.
Then you won't see the other rib, will you?
No. If the fender is missing, which it is missing off of there, there wouldn't be any rib because the rib is on the one that moves up and down, two little ones. You can see one and the other. They're not the same. We're back here. This is Sesame Street, right? One of these things doesn't belong. And it's the only image of this vehicle. All of the other ones, it's a different vehicle.
The wheels are clean here.
Oh, this thing was set down on the set. It hadn't moved an inch.
Well, it hasn't leaked yet.
This is the only shot of this rover. All of the other shots in Apollo 16, it's a different rover. And it can be identified by the frame rails, the stripes on the frame rails, and the other pieces on it. This rover was put out for a photo shoot. That's it. The other thing is there's the flag, 75 feet, because they're all supposed to be 70. For Apollo 11 was what, 50 feet? And then they said, well, we'll put it out 75 feet so it doesn't get knocked over.
Yeah. It got blown over in Apollo 11, we're told. Makes a good story, doesn't it? They're all good stories, these.
Why would they draw the flag in more than a kilometer away? And why do they have a PDF file to back that up? That was done around 2000.
Well, that's why.
They're just taking the same diagram from that orbiter, whoever put the EVA paths on it. They're just making a copy of it. And they're just writing garbage. They can't be that stupid.
You want to bet?
They don't know the details of their own story. If they change it in one document, then it's wrong in all the other documents.
Yeah.
Well, that means that every single one of those arrows that they have for the tracks and the boot prints and everything else there, all of it's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to put boot prints into a photograph taken from a height of, 15 miles? If they lowered the arrow, that's what it was supposed to be at.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see it. Literally, you would not see it. They don't have cameras that are that accurate and that can resolve such small images. So they added them in. It's called Photoshop. We've all heard of Photoshop, but they didn't add them in very well. They didn't think anybody would examine them in the detail which they have now been examined. And they've been found completely incorrect. They don't match the PDFs. They don't match the lunar orbiter photographs. I mean, that was supposed to be taken with a camera that had a resolving power of about 3 feet. So they then built plaster of Paris models based on those photographs. Well, you could make anything you like in a plaster of Paris model.
Oh, and what about the capsule, Scott?
Right there. See that shadow right there? Well, first of all, there's a problem because this is being shot from the LEM to the CSM. And the CSM is once again is below the LEM, which is not possible. But if you're 60 miles off the ground, you're not going to see this shadow down here. Watch it. See it? There's more video shots of that.
Yeah, but you could turn around and argue that if you were in an airplane, you would see the shadow of the plane out the window. Yeah, well, you're only at 32,000 feet.
This is 60 miles up.
Yeah, are we sure though? Even if you were 10 miles up there, would you really see it?
10 miles is 50,000 feet.
Yeah.
And you still get idiots like, or Whistler, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
coming up and saying it's all real. You can't fake it. Cheaper to go to the moon than to fake it. What a stupid comment.
Well, that tells you where their brain is at.
Obviously, he's never heard of an optical printer and what that can do.
They don't even know what that word means.
No, no, they've never seen one and never used one. So they don't know what was being used at the time. Optical printers were around in the 60s and 70s.
As a matter of fact, the LEM is undocked and it's on its way down. Let's watch it.
Which again, that's the CSM is below the LEM at that point.
Yeah, how do you get that? How does that happen?
Well, they went from one plaster mold to another.
Look at the hot spot out there. So that's the LEM shadow. You could see the leg sticking out of it, and the LEM shadow is going across. So then, what's this? That's another craft following them.
A piece of hardware that's hanging up that camera to shoot.
Yeah, but look how far away that piece of hardware is way over here.
Well, they've got different pieces of hardware to guide this bloody camera around that plaster mold.
So that means the LEM has two shadows, this one and that one there.
Yeah, well, like I said, they're going to have whatever's holding that camera up over that plaster mold is in the way of the light source.
I expect we'll get lots of wonderful explanations from NASA supporters on this. If that's supposed to be a hotspot, all the shadows are in the wrong direction.
That's right. That's what I keep looking at.
Yeah, there's no way this is Heiligenschein. There's just no way because there is nothing casting a shadow over that to cause a hot spot.
That frame of the window looks a bit odd as well.
Yeah, like those shadows there, right? You can see that hot spot there.
Yeah.
That's matching those shadows.
But
That matches it. You can see the shadows move. The shadow on the plaster mold.
Funny thing is that you can't have two shadows. Let's say that this is the shadow from the CSM down here. That's not possible having it in both directions like this.
If you were orbiting the moon, you would never see that shadow from a vehicle that small, that far away.
No, of course not. No.
Here's another way you could tell this is miles above the moon because we can see the curve.
Yeah, right. And you can do that on a plaster mold too, right? They're a couple of feet off of the plaster mold, and that's about it.
That's why you get the shadows.
That's why you get that nice shadow.
These mountains are thousands of feet in elevation.
Well, they're supposed to be. That's what we're meant to believe.
Unless that's just perspective that's doing this.
Well, if it's all being filmed on a plaster mold, this makes much more sense.
I would say a plaster globe.
Yeah, which existed.
Oh, yeah. That one was what, 25 feet high?
Yeah, by that.
Oh, that plaster sphere? Oh, absolutely, yes. It was massive.
Yeah, and they put the tracks around on it.
So why don't all these expert NASA supporters identify things like this? Because they don't dare.
CSM's getting awful close to that mountain range, eh?
Yeah, and the sun is getting closer. So that's kind of doesn't make sense either, does it?
Yeah, well, they're going to have to learn that they need to flip the vehicles around because it's the LEM that is descending to the lunar surface, not the CSM. And that's just a huge error. And that happens on more than one occasion with the Apollo missions, right? Don't forget, These guys are smoking cigarettes. They're dropping ashes all over the film and they have to cut it out, right? To damage it. It's like when the ashtray is full and the shit's going everywhere and they're macking up the film when they're playing with it.
Oh, so that's it. So now we have three cigarette butts following the craft now.
Not three cigarette butts. They set their cigarette down and the ashes fell on the film when they were editing it, so they had to cut it out because they smeared it. You're working away. Those guys, they hanging the cigarette out the side of their mouth and they're working away on it, and the ash drops down. It's hot. It burns a couple of frames, and they have to cut them out.
Like that old song, isn't it? Smoke gets in your eyes.
Yeah. Those guys were so dedicated they could drink beer and never take the cigarette out of their mouth.
Those were the days.
But if you're going to have people working, trying to pull something off like this, why are they so intent 55 years later on reproducing this stuff and putting it up on the internet all the time without hiring people with enough knowledge not to put up this kind of nonsense? I mean, it's showing you how fraudulent the film actually is. And yet they put it up there saying, here's Apollo 17, here's the descent and landing, and we're going to show it to you, right? Like a lot of the other ones that they put up, they've gone to complete animation for kids and everything else. It's complete animation. They don't show you what they claim to be the actual footage, especially Apollo 15. When we started talking about them crashing that thing, like dropping it off a gantry crane and smashing the legs off, and we show that the legs are smashing off, you go and look at the landing now. You go look at the Apollo 15 landing. It's all animation for kids. I just took a snapshot at 24 minutes and 24 seconds in. I was under the understanding that the oxygen tanks were 5,500 psi to keep them in liquid because you can get a hell of a lot more oxygen in there. These are gaseous oxygen tanks, right? And I don't know what a cold plate is. I do if it's lunchtime. I know what a cold plate is.
A cold plate is used in the Apollo spacecraft, both command and lunar module, to dissipate excess heat from electronic components.
I've never seen that terminology used in
We have
all
now.
of the documentation that I've read over the years. I've never seen it called a cold plate.
Well, if it's dissipating the heat into the lunar module, it would get very hot. There's a lot of equipment in there. The C-band cold plate, the transmitter cold plates.
Oh, yes, but there was a coolant loop, a circulating mixture of water and ethylene glycol that was pumped through the tubes embedded within the cold plates.
Where's it going to?
Well, it says here, the heated coolant was then routed to a sublimator or radiator system within the environmental control systems, which ultimately vented the heat into space, often by boiling water in a vacuum.
Yeah, that's fine. I've just never heard the terminology cold plate before. In all of the documentation, never heard that term. Like I said, when you're in 34 minutes in, they're showing shots of the guy in the simulator. But like I said, those could be recent shots because those have been so-called fully restored, right? Oh, and at the end of this film, they got the landing gear in there. I'll be watching that because they've redone it. I don't know how many times they've redone the landing gear. The only reason why it was designed like that is so it could fold up to get inside the Saturn V rocket, and then it expands out again. But as far as the landing portion of it, because they're on an angle, as they compress in, they're going to want to squeeze, like the diameter is going to be narrower as they compress down. And it's just going to tear the crap out of the legs.
Oh, God, there's some strange stuff going on there.
Yeah, it is. All of these new documentations, the people wouldn't be aware enough to catch all of the problems from the old films. You'd almost have to be there to know, or you'd have to study it like we have.
There's probably nobody at NASA working there now who was there during Apollo. So it's all secondhand.
We're second and third generation away from that.
Most of the good guys have gone to SpaceX.
Well, they're leaving that too, so going off on their own. Most of those guys with any ability have started their own companies now, especially with the rocket designs and the thrusters and stuff for satellites, guidance systems, everything else for them. Those are all smaller independent companies out there putting that stuff together. Bezos is taking advantage of that.
Yeah, yeah, both Bezos and Musk are doing a lot of work getting contracts from NASA. Good work if you can get it.
Well, when they just throw you a million, $10 million a day, $10 million a day, just in case you need it.
That's a lot of money for people, isn't it?
Just look at the amount of fertilizer that person is dumping on those rose bushes. That's exactly what we get with the Apollo program. It doesn't just come out of a watering can, it comes out in a bucket,
And it covers everything.
just like you see here.
Well, NASA's not in the space program anymore.
No, they're not.
The Space Shuttle 2011, they've been defunct for 15 years. And people still out there are saying, oh, well, they did this and this and this. Bullshit, right?
So, one thing I would like to say about Boeing, they still made space hardware, and I believe they still were responsible for building the Saturn V rocket. So, why is it they could get that rocket up into low Earth orbit, detach the CSM, pick up the LM, and then go all the way to the lunar surface? If they could do it back then, why can't Boeing produce one single capsule that can get to the ISS without nearly killing the astronauts because it's leaking? We're not talking about going to the moon here. We're just talking about low Earth orbit, 140 miles up there.
Why can't they produce a airplane that can get us across the Atlantic in a couple of hours? Why don't they have supersonic flight?
Because they've lost all the technology,
They destroyed the technology.
destroyed the technology, and it takes a lot to build it back up again.
Well, we destroyed that technology from the Concorde, and it takes a long time to build it back up again.
But they had it once. Concorde flew 20 years, more than 20 years.
Oh, they could build that same vehicle again, though. They could put that back into service. They could build another one.
Yeah, but let's face it, let's just take the Concorde, for example. It's very simple. Pull it out of the museum, refurbish it, and let it go. Well, why don't they do that with the Saturn V? If they can't get to the lunar surface, then pull the Saturn V out, refurbish it, put new O-rings in it, put new seals in it, fill it up, and let it go.
Because it never went in the first place. So they don't dare do it. Oh dear. It's a bit sad, really. But I'm sure we'll see it all happening with Artemis. Is it February they're going to launch it?
Well, that reminds me of the Twilight Zone. There was an episode called Kick the Can. That's what that reminds me of. That kid kicking the can down the road while the old man watches and remembers his youth. That just vanished away. And this is what this is going to be. Another generation comes and another generation goes. But Apollo, it seems to linger on, but Artemis can't get there. Artemis just can't seem to get there.
No. Technical issues causing cancellation. One thing we've never discussed yet is the difference between skip re-entry and direct entry of the Apollo craft coming back allegedly from the moon. Did it use skip re-entry or did it use direct entry? And what's the difference? More news next week, folks.